We think we have weather figured out, right? It's rain, sun, clouds, wind. It's just the backdrop to our lives. But every once in a while, the atmosphere does something so incredibly strange, so improbable, it completely breaks all the rules we thought we knew. What if the sky could create things that, for centuries, we just dismissed as myths or bad omens? Well, today, that's exactly what we're looking into. We're exploring the kind of weather that really shouldn't exist, but somehow it does. We're talking about clouds that literally roll across the sky like they're giant, solid cylinders. We're talking about rain that actually falls from the sky looking like blood. And you bet, we're even going to get into mysterious, glowing balls of lightning that can just drift silently right through your house. So yeah, let's dive in. Okay, so first up, we're going way, way above the storms we're all used to. We're headed to the upper edges of the atmosphere, where these fleeting electrical ghosts put on a light show that is as spectacular as it is rare. Say hello to sprites. For the longest time, pilots would come back with these wild stories about seeing huge, jellyfish-shaped flashes of red light way, way above thunderstorms. And for decades, everyone just wrote it off as folklore. It wasn't until 1989 that we finally caught one on camera and proved these massive crimson ghosts were real. And this is what makes them so unbelievably weird. You know how normal lightning shoots down from the clouds to the ground? Well, sprites do the exact opposite. They launch upwards from the tops of the most powerful thunderstorms, creating this incredible electrical bridge between our weather and the actual edge of space. Now here's another one of these atmospheric ghosts. For hundreds of years, sailors would watch in, I'm sure, a mix of awe and terror as this ghostly blue flame would just start dancing on the masts of their ships. They named it St. Elmo's fire. Now, it's not actually fire, and it's not lightning either. It's the air itself becoming so electrically charged that it just starts to glow, right on the verge of a lightning strike. Okay, so from these electrical phantoms high up in the sky, let's come back down a bit and look at actual physical structures. I'm talking about clouds that behave in ways that seem to totally defy the laws of physics. First of all, no, that is not a jet contrail. That is the morning glory cloud. It's a single, perfect tube of a cloud that can stretch for more than 1,000 kilometers. That's longer than the entire state of California, and it just rolls across the landscape like a giant wave in the sky. And the reason this thing is so legendary is that it basically only has one home. The incredibly delicate, perfect recipe of colliding sea breezes and specific pressure waves that you need to make this happen, it only occurs reliably in this one remote part of northern Australia. Seeing one anywhere else on Earth is a true once-in-a-lifetime event. And speaking of a perfect recipe, get a load of these snow rollers. They're basically nature's own self-made snowballs. For these to form, the conditions have to be almost impossibly specific. You need a slick crust of ice on the ground, then a light dusting of perfectly moist, sticky snow on top. And then you need wind that's just strong enough to get it rolling, but gentle enough that it doesn't just blow the whole fragile thing apart. If even one of those things is slightly off, you don't get this. You just get a boring snowy field. So we've had electricity break the rules, we've had clouds break the rules. Now let's look at how the sky itself can bend light, turning the whole atmosphere into a kind of planet-sized prism to create optical illusions that are just unbelievably beautiful and rare. So you've probably seen a sundog before, right? Those little bright spots next to the sun? Or maybe a faint halo around it? That's pretty cool. Fairly common, but a full halo storm, that's something else entirely. That's when the entire sky just erupts into this complex web of arcs and rings and phantom suns. It is the grand finale of atmospheric optics. And what makes this so ridiculously improbable is just the sheer number of things that have to go perfectly right all at the same time. You need every single one of these different optical effects to show up at once. And for that to happen, you need trillions of perfectly shaped, perfectly aligned ice crystals all hanging in the air across the entire dome of the sky. The amount of atmospheric precision that requires is, well, it's just staggering. All right, so from a beautiful illusion, let's switch to a downright terrifying one. Just imagine, for a second, looking up and seeing red rain falling from the sky. For ancient and medieval cultures, this wasn't meteorology, this was a sign from the heavens, a terrifying omen of war and destruction. But the reality, it turns out, is just as fascinating. It's not a supernatural warning, It's a story of just how far our atmosphere can carry things. Usually, that red color comes from fine dust that's been swept up from the Sahara Desert, carried thousands of miles, and then rained out over Europe. But in a really famous case in Kerala, India, the cause was even weirder. It was airborne spores from a local type of algae that got sucked up into the storm clouds. And for our final section, we're going to move from the beautiful and the mysterious to the truly terrifying. These are the phenomena that combine extreme rarity with just unbelievable destructive power. This is a fire tornado. And yes, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's what happens when a massive wildfire gets so intense that it starts to create its own weather, forming a rotating column of flame and superheated wind. They call it a pyroconvective vortex. After the Great Kanto earthquake in Japan in 1923, one of these spawned and killed tens of thousands of people in just a few minutes. And we're not just talking about little fire whirls here. During a massive wildfire in California back in 2018, a legitimate fire tornado was clocked with wind speeds over 230 kilometers per hour. To put that in perspective, that's the power of a strong EF3 tornado on the Fujita scale, except this one is made of fire. And that brings us to, perhaps the single greatest mystery in all of meteorology, ball lightning. For centuries, people have reported seeing these glowing, basketball-sized orbs of light just silently floating through the air. Sometimes they're reported to pass right through walls. We know it's a real phenomenon, but we still have almost no idea what it is. And it's not for a lack of trying. The theories are all over the place. Everything from vaporized silicon from the soil after a lightning strike to some kind of complex electromagnetic knot in the air. The biggest break we ever got was in 2012 when scientists finally, for the first time, captured the light spectrum of one. And it showed elements from vaporized soil, which was a huge clue. But the central mystery, how this little ball of energy holds itself together for so long, remains completely unsolved. So, what's the one thing that connects all of these incredible phenomena, from the sprites to the snow rollers to the fire tornadoes? It's really this shared theme of fragile perfection. Every single one of them is born from an impossibly precise, delicate alignment of conditions. They are these fleeting moments where our chaotic atmosphere somehow achieves a state of profound and often beautiful order.
Which really just leaves us with one final thought. Remember, sprites were dismissed as pilot folklore until just about 30 years ago. Ball lightning is still a complete puzzle. It just proves that even now, the sky right above our heads is not a fully explored frontier. So you have to wonder, what other wonders are out there, just hiding in plain sight, waiting for that 1 in a billion chance to finally appear?